Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 0x DevTalks. So in this series, we discuss various ways to leverage the 0x products in your project, as well as give you behind the scenes discussions with our engineers and product teams. And I'm Jessica, developer advocate at 0x. And today I'm really excited to bring on Henry, a good friend and teammate of mine who is an engineer on the Matcha team, to discuss the 0x-parser that he's built. The 0x-parser is an NPM package that's designed to parse out information about transactions that have gone through the 0x protocol. And I think it does so in a really clean and elegant way. He's made this public and open source so that you can leverage it in your own application. We highly recommend all integrators check it out. And I'm really happy to have him here with us today to share a bit about how he built it, why he built it, and how you can leverage it in your own app. So without further ado, let's bring Henry on stage. What's up,
Hey,
Henry?
hello. Hi, Jessica.
Let's start off with like a quick introduction of yourself. What do you do here at 0x?
My name's Henry. I'm an engineer on the Matcha team. I've been here close to 2 years building Matcha. Was on the team that did our rewrite, and yeah, all things Matcha.
Nice, that is his tagline. All right, so then what is this 0x parser? Can you give us an overview of what it is, what it does?
Yeah, so 0x-parser is a library that parses 0x transactions into a user-friendly, readable format. This is important because when a user completes a trade, we wanna show them how much they have swapped on the blockchain, to give them that sense of security that, hey, this has happened, and your trade has gone through. Normally, it is very difficult to get these amounts for various reasons. You have to kind of pull these and parse them out from the blockchain. So a lot of DEXs actually, when you complete the trade, it just says, hey, your transaction has been completed. And that's it. If you want to see the swapped amounts, you have to go to a third-party source like a block explorer. So yeah, 0x-parser allows you to bring the swapped amounts into your application. So your users don't necessarily have to leave your application to see the details of their swap.
All right, so you just gave a quick overview of the 0x parser and then talked about why it's useful. So specifically, when users make a swap, some UIs just show that your swap happened, but they don't show you the details of what happened, specifically like how much was traded. And I know as a user, it's nice to see that reassurance of like the trade that I made and how that went through. So can you talk about how it works, how it's interacting with the API and the protocol underneath?
Yeah, so when a user makes a trade using the 0x API and it occurs on the 0x smart contracts, there's a transaction receipt that's created. And that's how 0x parser gets the final swapped amounts. It identifies the event logs that were emitted along with that transaction. And within that event log contains some important information about the trade that's in a raw format that is not really intended for the end user. So it is these values that we convert or format in the parser. These values include things like the input amount, the output amount, the decimal representation of each of those values, and some extraneous like information. But essentially, this chunk of unformatted data is what we parse in the library. And within the library, if folks have heard of libraries like VM and Ethers.js, we use those tools to help format the final amounts.
Yeah, it's cool that because the 0x protocol itself is open source, right? So
Yeah.
all these smart contracts that we're interacting with, like anyone can publicly go in and see what pieces of information are going through, and then you're able to tap into that and leverage those functions, and then also use these front end libraries to format it so that front end apps could easily read that information that's coming through. So that's
Exactly.
cool.
Yeah. All the essentially in the parser, if you dive into the library, each parser is actually less than like 50 lines of code. There's about maybe 15 parsers, and each of those parsers are associated with a specific function call on the 0x exchange proxy like contracts, and all of this is like visible on chain.
Oh, interesting. So your parser is actually a collection of parsers that are parsing different functions.
Yes,
on this
yes,
smart
exactly.
contract. Okay.
So when the parser receives the transaction receipt, it actually does a dictionary lookup on like which function did you invoke. So for example, if a user had swapped and their trade had gone through Uniswap, there's a specific function for that trade, and I believe 0x has maybe around 10 to 15 of these functions.
Talk me through what inspired you to build this project in the first place.
It's all started from Matcha designers. They wanted to show the users what they had swapped immediately without our users having to leave Matcha to go to a block explorer. We wanted to show them the swapped amounts in app. But we found this very difficult to get those values. We don't expose those from any other internal APIs. So we really needed to parse them ourselves. And I actually initially did not know that we can do this. One of our engineers, Phil, on our backend teams, had suggested to me that we could totally do this, and he gave me a little head start on like where to get started, and worked on this a couple months on the side, and actually finally published this during a 0x hackathon, engineering hackathon.
A very collective effort. That's cool.
Yeah, totally.
All right, Henry, can you give us a quick demo of how to use it?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I have a code sandbox here. You'll want to install 2 packages. First, you'll install VM, which is the peer dependency, and then 0x-parser. So all of that is on NPM. So we're just going to install that real quick here. And then I'm going to paste a really small snippet here. It's about 18 lines of code. So this is going to be how we interface with 0x-parser. We export a single function called parse swap, which accepts one argument. And in that object, we're going to pass in the RPC URL, the exchange proxy ABI, and the transaction hash that we want to parse. And then we're just going to console log that user-friendly, human-readable data that we get back from the parser. So I'm going to click refresh here, and that should give us an amount in our console. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to pop open the parsed amounts here. And as we can see, we have a lot of Pepe traded for about 27,000 USDC. So that's the trade there. And now I would like to show this demo on Matcha. So we're going to make a trade and kind of see how the swap was formatted. So we'll go ahead to Matcha and make a trade for 1 USDC to 1 Matic, wrapped Matic. We'll place the order. And this is going to take about a few seconds. And then once it lands on the blockchain, we should be able to parse our amounts now. So our final amounts are parsed and shown to the user here. And the user doesn't need to go see details on the blockchain to get their final amounts.
So we just saw that like Matcha has implemented the package. If a team is watching and they're interested in putting it into their application, how could they go about that?
I recommend all 0x integrators use this. It's always great to show your users what they have swapped as soon as possible. This is available to all 0x integrators. It's completely open source, so check out the code yourself. It's fully tested 100%. The instructions are in the README on how to integrate this into your application. It's a very small library. And yeah, this is recommended for all 0x integrator if you want to show user-friendly amounts to your users after their swaps. Like
you mentioned, it's open source project. So take a look at the GitHub repo that Henry set up. And then also, if I remember correctly, you have some examples set up. You want to just showcase that?
Yeah, sure. Yep. So just head over to the GitHub repo. There's quite a bit of information on the README. And within the project, there is a folder called examples. And inside, there's 2 examples. There is a Next.js example and a web example. So if you're building on Next.js, feel free to check out the Next.js example. Some of these dependencies are out of date, but they should work for pretty much everyone. So it's just showcasing a very simple parse. So much of this dependencies don't need to be up to date. And for anyone interested in working on the library itself, or digging into the source code, there's a web example here that's simply an HTML page, and it pulls in the artifacts from the build. And this is more intended for developers on this project here. So let me open that up real quick, and it's very short. It's 50 lines of code. Most of that is just HTML. The main part is on lines 12 to lines 39 here. So this is just an example page for if you wanted to, say, reproduce a bug or something, or say a transaction didn't work for you for some reason. It parsed the incorrect amounts. You can plug in the transaction hash here, rerun the build to generate the artifacts, and kind of use this as a tool to help you debug any issues. So feel free to poke around here and parse some transactions by providing a 0x exchange proxy transaction hash into the parser.
Well, yeah, with that, it's a super straightforward, sweet little package that we highly recommend all integrators to check out. And with that, definitely give Henry a follow on Twitter. Here's his handle @henballs. He talks all things front end, Remix, 0x. Great guy to follow. Also want to shout out the blog post that Henry put together. It covers all we talked about today, and then he has the npm package, and then check out the GitHub repo. And all these resources are also down in the link as well. Do you have anything else for folks on the video before we wrap up?
No, that's it. Thanks for sharing this with everyone, Jessica. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me on Twitter. Feel free to DM Jessica. And yeah, thank you all for watching.
Sounds good. All right, happy swapping.